Hey guys, Shane here, Pocket Knife Review. This is going to be part 3 of my Picking the Knife Right for You series. Today we're going to talk about blade steels. Guys, I'm not going to get into detail about blade steel composition. I'm not even going to get into detail about how one outperforms another. It's overwhelming, especially if you're new into knife collecting or if you're just looking for a great pocket knife, that's going to get you through your workday every day. It can be very overwhelming, and the opinions can be even more overwhelming, guys. There are so many things people are going to tell you that may or may not be true that it gets crazy. I'm going to start with this, and the reason I want to start with this is because this was a very hyped knife company. It didn't deserve the hype, guys. This is a should be a $20 knife. I think they're getting a little over $40 for it now. It comes with HCR 13 MOV. Guys, that's the bottom of the barrel to me. There are knife steels lesser than this. Would I carry an HCR knife if my budget limited me to that and I had to pick a cheap knife? Um, I guess I would carry an HCR 18 MOV blade if I had to. I'd probably opt for an OS 8 or even better that, if you're really on a strict budget and you can't afford to buy a decent knife, you have to buy a cheap knife, which means you're probably going to end up with a Chinese knife. I would probably go with the Rock P801B and 14C 28N just because it's proven itself to be a good strong steel, a tough steel that holds an edge. But there are more things to think about whenever you're uh, picking the blade. We've already talked about the deployment methods and knocking mechanisms. For most people, their first choice is going to be blade size. Guys, to be honest, this is just a little Spyderco Dragonfly. This is a tiny little knife. Spyderco was kind enough to make it where even my big hands, I can get 4 fingers on it. This is simply just a small cutting tool that you can carry in your pocket. It has a pocket clip. It don't even need a pocket clip, really. You can just drop it in your pocket. It's so small, doesn't take up any space. But the first thing you're probably going to want to look at is blade size. If all you need is something to actually cut materials, if you need a cutting tool, you have no intentions of hard using it. You have no intentions of ever having to defend yourself with it. This is probably all you need, and it also happens to come in a super steel. It's 20 CV. Spyderco does a great job on their 20 CV. So, first thing you got to figure out is size. How big or small a blade do you want? Because you can go, this small and even smaller, to be honest. And then companies like Spyderco even have offerings, you know, that are gargantuan in comparison to that. This is a much bigger, much thicker blade steel. Some people would call it a lesser blade steel. It's S30V. S30V is a great steel, holds a good edge, plenty tough enough. You hear guys talk about it being chippy. I have experienced that because I laid this edge back too far, made it too thin. I destroyed the edge stability. Since then, I put a secondary bevel on it, and I have not had any chipping issues since. Been a great knife for me ever since then. Um, one thing you do want to think about though when you're thinking about steels is not just how much do you want to spend and how good a steel do you want, or to be honest with you, how much hype you're going to put into it so that you can tell your buddies I got a M399, whatever. Um, the main things you want to concern yourself with is what are you going to do with it. Guys, if you work on a charter fishing boat out in the Gulf, you don't want either one of these knives. To be honest with you, you're probably going to want something in like an LC 200N or Vanex Super Clean or something like that. Spyderco does offer LC 200N. This is a completely rust-free knife. I'm sure there's some chemicals you could probably dip it in at some point and make it corrode, but it's not an easy thing to do. And this was a purpose-built knife because of that. This knife was made for people who need a blade that they do not have to worry about it rusting on them. The exact opposite of that is your tool steels. Like your M4s, your K390s, things like that, Rex 45. These are extremely tough steels. These steels hold an edge for a very long time. However, they rust. They rust easily. They require maintenance. If that's not your thing, don't buy a tool steel. Just pick something else. There are some steels out there like S90V that have excellent edge retention. They are very corrosion resistant. However, they're not quite as tough as your tool steels. You can snap this blade. This thing was made to be extremely slicey. It's not extremely thick blade stock. And that is one of the things that helps it to be so slicey. However, it's not the toughest knife on the market, but it is a very corrosion resistant steel. So, once you figure out how big a knife you actually need and what you're comfortable with carrying, then you're going to need to figure out what you need that steel to do. If you put some time and some thought into these things, you can figure out, what knife is best for you. Which one do you need to pick? Because there's nothing worse than buying a knife thinking it's going to do what you want it to do and it not. The only thing worse than that is being an idiot and buying a knife and trying to make it do what you want it to do when it wasn't designed for that. That makes you the idiot. That doesn't make the knife a bad knife. You should probably put a little more research into what you're doing. But another thing that you want to think about when you're talking about your blade is not just the size and the material. Guys, there are tons of different blade shapes out there. One that has become quite popular recently is your Wharncliffe blade. Wharncliffe blades have become more popular because the majority of knife owners now aren't, I don't know what word I want to use here. I don't want to be offensive. They're not necessarily knife users. They're package openers. You could do the exact same job that most people do with this knife with the scissors on your desk or a letter opener or whatever. But they can serve more than just that purpose. This knife has a 3.5-inch cutting blade. It cuts just fine. It has no belly. It's just got that very pronounced tip, and the tip is, whenever you hold it, is already turned down to make it easy to contact the surface, drag it, and make your cut. So you can look at a Wharncliffe if you open a whole lot of packages. A lot of guys do like a knife with a whole lot of belly, especially your outdoorsmen. A whole lot of belly in a knife makes it excellent for skinning and cleaning game. You don't necessarily want that tip, catching the gut sack on a whitetail deer. So belly can be very convenient for that type thing. Some people don't like belly on a knife that they use to primarily process cardboard with because of that curve. The knife, does gradually want to work its way out of the cut. But there are knives out there that were made just for that. They put a little recurve into the edge. Recurve has become very unpopular because people that don't know how to sharpen knives, they can't get it sharp, so they tend to stay away from recurves. This is a very slight recurve in this blade, but the purpose of that recurve is to trap material. Whenever you go to push a blade through the material, because of that slight curve in there, it traps that material in the center of that convex, so to ease in that cut and to keep the material right in the sharp part of the blade. So guys, those are all things to think about whenever you're purchasing your first pocket knife, your next pocket knife, whatever. I'm not going to cover the whole hot train part of picking that because, guys, I think I just think that's dumb. Whenever you're looking into getting into knives or buying your next knife or your first knife, price is definitely going to be an issue. It's an issue for all of us, and I do believe that there is a limit to what you should spend, unless you're just having to buy a purpose-built knife and it costs you more than that. But this, in my opinion, is this is the point of diminishing returns. You know, once you get to about the $150 mark, and that's about what a Hogue Ritter RSK MK1 cost, you know, you're looking at, you're getting a good G10 handle, you're getting a good lock, you're getting a good steel. Once you spend over that, guys, you're buying bragging rights. You know, as much as you guys have heard me talk about Medfords and how much I love them, and you know, people talk about their inflated costs, they are expensive. You are buying something, you know, just to make you happy. You're buying something to brag about, to be honest. Even if you don't consider yourself a, you know, a bragger, you know, that does go into it. But like I said, you don't have to spend a ton of money to get a good cutting tool. You know, this knife sells for about $80 for 90% of the population, for 90% of the people who just need a cutting tool in their pocket. Um, this is probably all you'll ever need. You know, man invented cutting tools a long time ago, and when we did, it gave us an edge up on in the food chain. It gave us, you know, it increased our probability and our chances of survival. We're getting away from that. You know, like I said, most guys just need a knife now to open a package, cut a string off their daughter's dress, you know, maybe slice an apple, and that's fine. You know, we live in a lot more comfortable world than we used to, but you know, my main thing I want you guys to get out of this is there's tons of blade shapes, tons of blade thicknesses, tons of blade materials, tons of different blade lengths out there. Um, just don't fall into that trap, man, of spending, you know, way more money than what you have to spend to purchase a knife. And if at all possible, guys, you know, try to purchase a USA made knife. Um, I just believe they make a better knife. The value is in the pride of ownership to me, and you can afford it. I promise you, if you can afford a $30 knife, you can afford a $100 knife. It may take you a little longer to acquire that. And if you're like me and you have to start out buying a $30 knife and carry that and save your money until you can start buying good knives, then so be it. Do that. But you know, out of all the topics we're going to cover in this picking your knife, you know, whether it be, you know, locking mechanisms, handle materials, blades, all that stuff, the most important thing to me is the pride and ownership of knowing I've got something in my pocket that was made by an American for an American company that supports America. So that's all I got for you guys today. Um, I'll hopefully I'll have my next video up. I think this is going to be about 5 parts to this series. The next 2 parts aren't going to be quite as long, but like I said, that's all I've got for today. Peace. I love you guys.